Hey friend, welcome back to the Care Collective podcast, a space where caregiving's unfiltered realities are acknowledged and where we talk honestly about what caregiving does not just to your schedule, but to your heart, your identity, your relationships, and today especially your body. Because I think a lot of caregivers quietly wonder, why do I feel so physically exhausted all the time? Or why is my body suddenly falling apart? Or why can't I relax anymore? Why do I constantly feel like I'm on edge? And honestly, I think a lot of caregivers don't realize they've been living in survival mode for so long that their nervous system doesn't even remember what safety feels like anymore. So, today I want to talk about the hidden physical toll that caregiving can take on your body. And I'm not trying to scare you, I'm not trying to say that you are doomed, because I think so many caregivers blame themselves for the symptoms that you are experiencing, when in reality, this is just symptoms are just a warning sign from your body that we need to slow down and we need to take care of each other, right? And I want to talk about the tangible ways to support your body while carrying something this heavy, because yes, it is going to take time, it is going to take practice, and I'm not trying to tell you to do any of the things in here overnight, and I'm also not trying to say that you have to do exactly what I'm saying either. I think all of this process is a journey, and it is going to take time for you to figure out what it's going to look like in the long run for you. So, the first thing I want to talk about is how the body was never designed to live in constant crisis. One thing I've learned from talking to caregivers is that many of them are functioning in a constant state of hypervigilance. And I'm really excited to release an episode with one of my longtime friends, Lisa, because we talk a little bit more about what that kind of looks like as a trauma response. And you can either go to a state of wanting to do nothing, you want to curl up in bed and not go anywhere, kind of more of the depressive symptoms, I guess you could say, or you can go into that state of hypervigilance, which is still a valid trauma response. It is a response to these stress situations where you have to do everything, you have to constantly be on the go, etc., things like that. So this can feel like waiting for the next phone call, the next fall, an emergency to happen. You just constantly feel nervous and like you don't know what's going to happen next. Your body's going to learn over time that you are not safe enough to fully relax, which is very unnerving and unsettling. And that has a long-term impact on your body and your health over time. According to the National Cancer Institute, chronic stress can impact cortisol levels, inflammation, immune function, blood pressure, sleep quality, digestion, and ultimately your mental health. And all of these things are all tied together. Your sleep quality is going to affect your mental health, which is going to affect your physical health, right? Like, all of these things are so closely tied together. I even remember one time my therapist telling me how much anxiety is tied to digestion and feeling like you're not able to eat, or maybe that you're overeating. That's all. There's explanations for all of this in your body, right? And I think that caregivers could have experienced any and all of these things at incredibly high rates, especially if you are in a long-term situation where you're dealing with crisis mode every single day, all the time. According to the 2025 report for caregiving in the US from the AARP and the National Alliance for Caregiving, there are approximately 63 million caregivers in the US, and nearly 24% of adults are caregivers. That, if nothing else, I hope that you don't feel alone, because that is a lot of people when you calculate out how many that is. And with that, a lot of caregivers are providing an average of 27 hours of care per week. That is more than a part-time job. On top of probably working, taking care of multiple people, trying to take care of yourself, that is a lot of time and energy you're putting into taking care of someone. And among those numbers as well, 64% of those people report high emotional stress and 45% report physical strain. So again, to me, the physical and the mental they're tied so closely together that it's impossible to acknowledge one without acknowledging the other. Except I do think that we underestimate how much our mental health and the emotional things we go through impact our physical health. And I know, even at a personal level, every time I'm stressed out, I get sick way more often. And that is something that I notice, right from the start. And so, it's little things like that that, again, are just your body's way of saying, like, hey, we need to slow down. We need to take care of this, right? So, the second thing I wanted to talk about is what caregiving stress actually feels like in the body. Because, again, I think when we hear stress, we can picture being overwhelmed emotionally, and we don't always equate it to what does that actually look like physically. Something I thought was interesting, even just this past week, was that a lot of the symptoms of burnout can be similar to the symptoms of ADHD, which is so intriguing to me because that could mean that you are, in a world that is not functioning for you, that is not making sense for you if you have ADHD. Like that's just not how the world really like operates. Is from a very ADHD friendly zone, right? Whether it's school or work. So I think, again, that can kind of exhibit an example of how the world is not built for caregivers and it's not built to let you slow down and to take these moments for yourself, right? So I think it's really important that we learn to identify what these physical symptoms could be like, try to understand it a little bit more. So this could be things like chronic exhaustion, headaches, migraines, stomach problems, brain fog, panic attacks, muscle tension, chest tightness. I think those two really get me a lot whenever I'm stressed out. It could be insomnia, or it could be the opposite, where you're sleeping way too much. You could be dizzy, you could be forgetful. Again, dizziness is kind of one that'll strike me out of nowhere, where I'll just feel like I have vertigo all the time when I get super stressed out. Again, being forgetful, like your memory goes haywire when you are stressed out. And sometimes I'm just going to say there's another category of feeling wired, but you're still tired somehow. Like you just cannot find a way to calm down, right? And if you have taken the anxiety screener or depression screener, you'll know that a lot of these questions or a lot of these things can actually be tied to that. Like one of the questions is being so restless that people notice, or um, anyways, things like that, that if you become familiar with it, you'll know that that's kind of a thing that we measure and see if it affects your day-to-day life. And I think many caregivers don't notice how bad it's gotten because survival mode becomes normal, and it's easy to say, okay, I need to take care of this person. It doesn't matter what happens in the moment right now to me because I'm taking care of this person. And then it all comes crashing down. A 2024 study from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, found caregivers had worse outcomes than non-caregivers on 13 of 19 health indicators. The same report found that 65.7% of caregivers have at least one chronic physical health condition compared to 54% of non-caregivers. So essentially, I know it's a lot of numbers I'm throwing out at you. If you are a caregiver, you are more likely to have more chronic physical health conditions compared to people that are not caregivers that are the same age as you. And caregivers typically experience higher rates of depression and frequent mental distress. And again, your mental and physical health they're tied so closely together that alone is already going to put you at a greater risk for bigger health problems. Something that I find, again, in every single story from every person that I talk to, is that I hear from caregivers that they neglect their own healthcare because they're so focused on helping someone else survive. So you're going to postpone your own doctor's appointments. You're going to not sleep as much. You're not going to exercise like normal, right? Maybe you're going to skip lunch every day because you're just too busy, or you don't even take your own medications anymore regularly, and you just really need to get some rest. And that would probably solve a lot of the problems, right? Some caregivers haven't even experienced true rest in probably years at this point. And we're talking about, deep rest, emotional rest, lots of different ways you could take that to mean as well too, right? So the third area I wanted to briefly acknowledge is dementia caregiving and that extreme stress load, because, I think obviously everyone's capabilities for handling stress is very different. But the stress that can come with dementia caregiving in particular is a lot. It creates a very unique level of stress because you're constantly monitoring their safety, you're dealing with wondering, you're managing that confusion, probably grieving when they don't remember who you are or start to forget pieces of themselves, right? There's personality changes, there's aggression that comes with that. You lose sleep, and again, that just grief that seems to permeate through every part of this process as you're losing this person through sometimes what can take years. It can be very long term for some people. There's a statistic that is shared online a lot that says that, I think particularly they were looking at spouses that were caring for their partner that had dementia, And it basically says that they are more likely to die before the person that they care for. And I know there's probably a lot more nuance to the research than that, but I think that just shows how stressful it is, and how it can really take a toll on your overall life in the long run. And again, I am not trying to overwhelm someone or make them feel hopeless. I promise we're going to get to a positive part pretty soon. And I want to always keep this focused on ways that we can be proactive and help you and provide real tangible solutions, and not just sit here and talk about the problems all day long, right? And a landmark study published in another group found that elderly caregivers experiencing significant strain had a 63% higher mortality risk than non caregivers of the same age. And this, again, is not going to mean that caregiving directly causes death. I doubt there's any study that could say that explicitly. But I want to bring all of these things up to educate you and to show you how serious prolonged stress and unsupported caregiving can become. So, if nothing else, you need to take care of you so that you can be there to take care of your person as long as you want to be there for them, right? And so, again, these are just all possible causes, and I'm not trying to directly say that anything that you have done as a caregiver is directly, caused something that you are going through now. And obviously, this is not meant to be medical advice. Please talk to your doctor if you need medical advice. I am not qualified to give any kind of medical advice here. But I just want to bring up all of these studies and this research because I think we're still trying to figure out what is the relationship between stress and diseases like cancer or dementia itself, right? But the little that we do know is that chronic stress really does affect our every body system, and it affects the way that our bodies are able to recover from stress and be able to continue to function. And I think a lot of caregivers don't have enough time, energy, or support to recover physically. So it's just not the stress itself, but it's the overall circumstances that you've placed yourself in. Whether it's that lack of sleep, it's not having a group of people around you to support you, right? Or not having time for preventative health care. Maybe you skipped out on your mammogram this year because you just didn't have time, right? I've heard caregivers directly telling me that they've been in remission for cancer and have not even had time to make it back to their appointments that are very important when you're in those stages, right? So just want to say that that is realistic, and I understand that you are doing so many things and it is easy to let caring for yourself fall to the wayside. So now I want to talk through how can we support your body as a caregiver. And I want to talk about different solutions, and I'm not going to tell you to take a bubble bath unless that is your stress reliever. Then please go take every single bubble bath in the world. You absolutely deserve that. But I want to talk through some different angles and perspectives of how to help you find support for yourself even if you're really stressed out. So number one is to stop minimizing your stress. If your body is screaming at you, please listen sooner rather than later. You do not need to earn care. This isn't, I think another comparison a lot of people like to make is with eating and maybe feeling like, okay, well, if I'm going to eat this Oreo, then I need to make sure I run an extra mile to burn off the calories, right? That's not how that works either, because food is fuel and you need to take care of your body. And, exercising is good. You're not going to die if you eat an Oreo every now and then, right? Care works the same way, and self-care works the same way, that you do not need to work yourself to death in order to earn a vacation or to earn a day off. You can just simply take time for yourself because you are a human being outside of being a caregiver, and it is so important and valid for you to take care of yourself, right? Being exhausted is not proof that you're loving someone well. It's just proof that you are not taking care of yourself and that you're going to burn yourself to the ground, right? So, number two is to build tiny moments of nervous system safety. So, I want you to focus on things like sitting outside for 10 minutes and feeling the sun, stretching. If you're religious, try praying or some other religious practice that means a lot to you. Breathe slowly, listen to calm music, go for a walk, or talk to a friend that can be helpful to you, right? I think people underestimate, again, how much these small moments can really make a difference. Number three is that sleep is not optional, and this is something I have had to learn the hard way because I burned myself out so many times just not getting sleep, and then my body will force me to sleep. Sleep is always the first thing to go when I am stressed out. So I am preaching to the choir, and I could be taking this advice myself, because sleep deprivation, it is just insane the things that it can affect on every level of your physical health. So if possible, ask for overnight help or split responsibilities, accept support, or maybe get really good at taking naps in random points of the day. But again, giving yourself time to sleep, I think you will find can solve more problems than you think that it could. Number 4 is please, please, please prioritize going to your own appointments. Again, do not wait until your body completely breaks down, because you matter too, and your ability to take care of yourself is what's going to, support or hinder your ability to take care of other people. So it is so important to be proactive about your health and take care of yourself so you can be here for a long time, again, for the people that surround you. Number 5 is to let other people help imperfectly. We do not have to have perfection. We do not have to have, everybody doing everything exactly as you would do it. Even imperfect support helps. So this could be meal trains, grocery pickups. We've got some other episodes that talk a lot about the types of support that people can offer you. So definitely go and listen to that one. And I tried to phrase it as even an episode that you could send to a loved one. And I can kind of speak to them and say, hey, here's some things they might want some help with, right? But I just want you to let go of the idea that you have to do everything or that everything has to be done perfectly. Because I think sometimes we see somebody mess something up, right? And you think that you have to be the one to do it to get it right. Again, this is something I'm working on myself, because done is better than perfect. Say that to yourself a million times if you have to, right? Number 6 is to stop treating your stress like weakness, because I think that is just the number one thing to focus on. If caregiving has affected your body, you are not failing. You have not done something wrong. That is not the takeaway you should take from all of this. This is just your body responding how a human body responds to prolonged stress, grief, fear, responsibility, hypervigilance. I could go on and on. You have not been lazy. You have not been weak. If anything, I think we should be grateful that our bodies are able to do so many amazing things and still tell us when it's stressed out too, right? Like, I think it's crazy that my body knows when I need to sleep or knows when I have the flu that I need to calm down for a second, right? And force myself to take a break. So, I just think it's a miracle that our bodies can do all of these different things and are still wired to protect ourselves at the end of the day. I think you are your own biggest advocate and you don't even know it. So if this episode resonated with you, I'd really encourage you to send it to another caregiver who needs the reminder that their body matters too. And if nobody has told you this lately, you deserve support before you completely fall apart. So thank you for being here and for taking the time today to take care of yourself. This was an act of self-care just by listening to this and trying to learn more about how you can support yourself. Thank you for letting this be a space where we can tell the truth about caregiving and talk about all of our emotions openly. So please take care of yourself too, and I will see you next time.